I'm always grateful for you.
Well, likewise. So when I was thinking about this, when I was getting my notes ready, what year did North Shore launch? I should know, but I just can't remember.
2014, 13 or 14, 13 maybe.
Okay. I was going to say 15, but you lose track. So, okay. That's good to know.
7. We're on our 8th year.
8th year. Okay.
Feels like just yesterday. Charlie, what do we at? About 670 agents in Milwaukee?
Wow.
Yeah, 610.
610, something like that.
Just so you know, everybody can hear this conversation.
Yeah, we know. That's good.
That's how we roll, right, Todd? We just kind of
we're
good. All of a sudden, I wanted to make sure that, like, all of a sudden, Maureen is like, "Hey, my 401k," I'll start sharing financial information.
Yeah. No, we're good. We're all good. I figured everybody could hear us. That's fine. We don't care. Thank you, Charlie.
Willie Stelle is tapping in from vacation in Palm Springs. You
wow.
That's cool.
Don't do that, Willie. Go sip.
This is an important class. I wouldn't miss it.
Well, it's important if you're in Milwaukee at the time, but it's not if you're in Palm Springs. So.
It's all right. I've had enough.
Look at you. You look like Aaron Rodgers crying out loud.
Todd, what he's not telling you, he's already been there for a month. I mean, what more?
That's not true. That's not true.
Yeah,
that's not true.
I don't doubt it. Well, it's all you guys roll.
I've put some deals under contract while I'm here, so it's all good.
It's all good. All right, cool. Well, Charlie and Maureen, I'm ready to go whenever you guys are. If you want to wait a little bit or whatever, it's your call.
No, 1 o'clock. Let's roll.
Okay, well, let's start with the big news, the most important news. I don't even know if this will show up on camera. Does that show up?
Oh, does it say Wisconsin on there?
I'm a flipping cheesehead, for crying out loud. Now, yeah, we're actually residents up here. So, and it's really super cool. We love it because it's and Minnesota, by the way, is not real kind to you when you want to leave your residence, especially if you still have a residence there, because they want proof. Anyway, so all good. I'm excited. Thanks for being on, everybody. And I talked to Maureen briefly yesterday and just said, look, I want to change this up a little bit for today. I don't want to just kind of go down through some outline. I do have a lot of notes prepared and I've got a PowerPoint for some of it, but I want it more to be just kind of a very direct and honest and sincere conversation. Before I get into the conversation, Maureen and I were talking right when we first started, and Maureen, it's been like, what, you're going into your 8th year. So you started around 2014 or so, but there were market centers that started in the Twin Cities 12 years ahead of that. And we have 32 market centers in the North Central region. And last year, North Shore finished number 2 in profit share. So you beat every, and I think you're number 3 in units. So you beat everybody in the Twin Cities market except one market center. And that's right, I'm smack in the middle of Minneapolis. But so that's a big deal. We're very, very proud of this market center and everything else you've done in Milwaukee. And I brag on you guys all the time. You don't know about it, but I do. So, okay. And by the way, if you want to raise your hand or throw something in the chat, maybe Charlie, you can maybe monitor chat, or if you want, and if there's a real pertinent question. I'm not a CPA, but money is a kind of a passion or hobby of mine, and I talk about it a lot. So we'll give you some good questions to ask professionals during the day today, and get started. So let me back you up. A couple of nights ago, as I was getting ready for this, I asked my wife, Jody, we've been married 43 years, and we've been, maybe part of the reason I'm passionate about this is because if I can say it on screen, I sucked at it. I was so bad at this in my early 20s. I had no respect for money.
You should listen to this with me. It's all about money.
Hi, Robin, we can hear you, but yeah, whoever you're inviting, get them in. That's great. So we were just messy and irresponsible. And I look back on those days right now and I think, I would write a $4 check to Taco John's and it would overdraw and it would cost me, $34 or some stupid thing. And I look back at that now and I think, who was that guy? And here's what I do know, that you can come out of it, and you can come out of it a lot quicker than you might think. And you can also, if you're already good, you can get even better at it. Okay. And it just reaps huge, huge, huge rewards. So I'm talking with Jody and I said, what would you have wanted to know back then? And she really put a lot of thought into this. In fact, I'm going to tell you later that she completely flipped the way I was going to do this today in terms of the order of the event. And her first comment was, and I wrote these down, I didn't put them on the PowerPoint, but she said, "You're never too far gone." Because she said, I had moments where I thought, well, to heck with it. I mean, we're so messy now. Why bother starting now? And she said, just make sure people know. And I know, by the way, we have people on this call that are really, really rock solid, and we're going to give you some good tips on running your business coming up in a second. So stay with us. But those of us that are kind of a little bit messy or very messy, it's not something that we're so far gone, we're just going to turn our head to it and go, well, you know what? I can't get better at this, because you can. And these are, again, right from my wife. She said, number 2, I would keep it simple. There's a lot that hits us. There's a lot of software available, things like that. I'm going to show you a slide here in a little bit that you might find interesting. She said, number 3, get help. And I think a lot of us either rely totally on help and we don't do any of it ourselves. And we say, well, I've got somebody to take care of that for me. Or we mess around with it ourselves, or we don't want to give up and give it to somebody to help because it is so messy. We think, I don't want anybody even seeing this. Maureen, I don't know if I shared this with you last time. I may have, because it was right about that same time. I was consulting with a friend of mine who's got about 100 agents, right around 100. He's an independent. It's got a very nice niche, and he wanted some coaching on his money. So we met at this little cafe right before COVID, the first COVID, and I've been looking through it, and I started asking him questions on his financials, and he couldn't answer them. I mean, he couldn't even come close to answering. He said, I don't know. I said, Bill, you have to know. And I said, do me a favor, don't show these to anyone. Because if you're going to get ready to sell this or have it acquired, you're not even in a place where you can start. They're so messy. So sometimes if it's so messy, we say, well, I'm going to keep it to myself. I'm not going to let anybody help. So Jody said, get help. And then her fourth one was, don't ignore it. Pay attention to it. And I think it's been my experience in the industry. Maureen, you might remember this from Mega Camp this year. We had a lot of producers doing unbelievable numbers. And when Gary would start to dig in with them about their business, almost all of them said, I was a mess until just a year ago or 2 years ago or just recently. In fact, Maureen, you might remember this. To get on stage at Mega Camp, you used to have all this big production and you get on stage. Well, just a couple of years ago, there was a few people on stage that Gary later found out were that close to being insolvent. Even though their numbers were huge coming in, they were an absolute financial wreck. And I'm going to tell you from personal experience, it weighs on you. When you're not clean here, it weighs on you. So that's Jody's thoughts, is keep it simple. So that's what we're going to kind of do today. Now, a couple other thoughts from me. There's not any judgment today. If you're super good at this already, great, then reach out, because the industry can use your help. And I don't mean take a lot of time to do it, but you might find somebody you could mentor. Maybe you're on a panel for Charlie or something, and you just share what you know, because the industry needs help. But there's no judgment today. You're not a bad person. You're not immoral. I had a woman one time come up to me after a class and say, I am too. I'm immoral because I don't pay my bills on time. I said, well, that's you beating yourself up. You don't need to do that. But we're not judging anybody. The next one I would say is, before I get into kind of some of the PowerPoint things, is I would ask, I'm not going to say to anybody today, you got to do this. You haven't done it up till now, so I'm just going to suggest some things. I would suggest understanding basic facts about small business that we just are just pertinent to running an operation. For example, I don't even want to go here, but I'm going to go here. All of your taxes for 2021 are due in 4 days. Not on April 15th. Now, here's what's interesting. As an industry, I'm not saying anybody on this call, but as an industry, we don't pay them. We don't pay our taxes. We extend, and then we pay really, really late, and then we pay interest and penalty, but we couldn't afford them when they were due. So understanding business. Now, by the way, I know, because I've talked to so many people, I know the sentiment of, I don't have time to do this. I don't like to do it. I don't like the numbers. Well, guess what? We own a business. Maureen, have you ever heard Gary, maybe Charlie, you've heard it, or Willie, you've heard Gary say, look, when I got into business, I didn't like numbers. I had to learn them. I didn't gravitate toward it. I had to learn them to be the proper fiduciary to my business as I could. So it's kind of, we gotta kind of put our britches on here and say, I got to pay some attention to this versus just, I'm going to let it go. All right. So, and then the last one is, I'd say overall, just be paying attention to this, because the more you pay attention, the less time this takes you, I promise, the less headache there is. I run a couple of different businesses, and it doesn't matter about me. I'm just telling you, the 15th is coming up on Saturday. I think the taxes aren't due until the 18th, which is Tuesday, because of Martin Luther King. I could give a rip, because I know it's already ready. It's already ready. So the full tax liability for 2021 is already all set aside. It's already ready. So what does that do to my stress level? My stress is centered around a 1.5-year-old Labrador who drives me crazy. But it's not about, he does drive you crazy, but it's not around, what am I going to do? And this sentiment of, well, I can catch up later. You won't catch up later. So what I thought I would do today is, instead of going through all kinds of philosophical, deals about taxes and things like that, what I thought we'd do, if it's all right, Maureen, and by the way, if we need to adjust for next time, I'll adjust for next time. But I thought for today, what we do is say, look, what can we go do right now? And if you're already doing the things we're on the list, then great, then we'll take you to the next thing. Because I promise everybody on the call today will hit something that you can be fine tuning and getting better at if you're already good. If you're a little messy, we're going to help start cleaning that up right now. I will promise you this. If you start to get a handle on the money part of your world, you're going to get better at performing at your real estate sales. Maureen, would you agree with that?
100%. Yep.
There's a concept. I'll throw it out to all of you, and I've brought it up before on this call. Maybe last time Charlie and I did one of these, and that is, I had a candidate to be an operating partner, and I think they were in Wyoming, Wisconsin, or Wyoming, in the far west, and they wanted to open up a Keller Williams office. Okay, so I did an introductory interview with them, and I found some connections to people that I know that they know, and I called essentially a reference of theirs, and I said, "Hey Sue, it's Todd. Hey, Bill from Wyoming, from Casper, reached out to me. He wants to open up a market center, and I've got a vibe from him over the phone, and I don't know if it's correct, and I don't like to judge." I said, "I don't think he has any money." And she said, "He has no money." Doesn't mean he's not a good guy, by the way. When you go list a house, if you're insolvent or on the edge or strapped or messy financially, and you meet a couple, they don't have to be wealthy, but they've got their money in order. There's a vibe we put out. They can pick up on it. I promise you they can. So let's get a handle on it. So this is a to-do list, is all we are doing. Everybody good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me just, here's the first thing I'll show you. When Jody said, keep it simple. Now this is our personal. These are not the businesses we own. That's how Jody keeps track of personal right there. Oops, I'm not sharing screen yet. Let me do that for you. You're looking at nothing and I'm talking to you. Share screen. We'll go right here. You guys got that now? Can you see it?
Yep.
All right. Sorry about that. That was just a snafu on my part. All right. So this is what Jody uses to keep track of our money in different areas. Now, these are not our investment accounts. This is just our money flowing into our household. She just keeps it on a ledger. And by the way, she's got a remarkable system. And we never worry about are things paid or not paid, or, she only does it twice a month. She keeps it very, very ritualistic. And so there's never any, we have to, no, it's just, we just do it. And by the way, the more systematized you get, how much time do you think it takes? Less and less time. Yeah, right on. It just takes less and less time the more systematized you get. And as we're going to look at it here in a little while, when I tell you about budgeting, which nobody likes it, the better you get at it, the less time it takes. So, and I've got two different operations that are, healthy, and they don't take much time financially. They really don't. Okay, so here we go. What to do right now? And again, throw questions in if you need them. The first one is get real about the money. One of the biggest challenges the industry has is if I'm making, pick a number, 60 grand a year in real estate, we think we're making 60 grand. But we're not making 60 grand. Okay. We have 30% of that's expense. So now we're down to 40 grand. Okay. And I'm talking, we've already paid our brokerage. So now we're down to 40. And then we have self-employment tax and regular tax on top of that. So now we're down to, 28, but we don't make 60. And so one of the big challenges in the industry is we're not real about the money we're actually making. When I was doing a lot of coaching with agents, folks, I'd say, Charlie, how much did you make last year? And Charlie would say, well, I made, 125,000. But when an agent would say to me 125, what were they quoting?
They're gross.
Thank you. They're quoting the revenue. They're quoting revenue, but they're not quoting what they made. And there's a big difference. So if we do nothing today and we leave going, you know what, I'm going to start looking at this like it's an operation. It's a business operation, which is fantastic. It's one of the best ways to accumulate wealth in America today or in the world. But we have to understand that there's revenue that comes in, and then there's cost to operate that, cost of sale, and there's expenses. And then there's what we get, okay, pre-tax. So first thing to do is separate your money if you haven't already separated it. Now, if you have separated the money, what I mean by that is, and I'll show you a graph in a second, the money comes in not to Todd and Jody Butzer. The money comes into Todd Butzer, LLC, Real Estate Sales, Inc., whatever, comes into the entity. Okay, so I'll show you. Let me get you to the slide here. This is what associates oftentimes do. Not always, but oftentimes. They just get the check and they put it in their checking account. What's the flaw with that? And no judgment, but what's the flaw business-wise?
The $10,000 isn't all Mary's.
That, you couldn't have said it better than that. It's not Mary's money. It's not our money. So this is and here's why I know this is still going on. Number one, I talked to a lot of agents. Number two, when you do a large real estate program somewhere and the MCA say, well, everybody in our office to pay their office bill writes a personal check. Well, we can't write a personal check for that because it's costing us double then instead of deducting it and so on. Anyway, so this is a challenged flow. Now, smart flow of money. You can see where the money is going to go here. The 10 goes into your business account. Now, when I'm saying what to do, you can do this tomorrow. You can do this afternoon. You can set up these accounts right now if you don't have them. If you do have them, are you religious about how you're doing it? Okay. 7 goes to the personal account. Why did 3 stay with business? And be careful how you answer this one because it's probably not what you want to say. Why did 3 stay in the business account?
Based on the ramifications of your tax category.
Okay, so this is where everybody wants to go, is they want to go to tax first. But the business is not taxed, okay? Normally. In most of your setup, most of your ownership entities that the people on this call have, you either have a sole-owned LLC or a small partnership. You have a sub-S maybe, or you're a sole proprietor. All are fine. There's no reason to have one or the other. I mean, there's little nuances, but they're all fine. That entity, according to the IRS, when we file, is called disregarded, meaning they don't really care what you are. All they're saying is, look, Todd, you formed a LLC, but you're the sole owner of it. The money is yours. You're going to pay tax on the money yourself, not the corporation. So the 3 that's in the business account is there for what then?
Expenses.
We got to operate.
Operating expenses.
Yep, we got to operate. So, and what do we mean by that? Well, we have marketing. We have maybe an assistant that we pay. We have rent. We have dues at the market center. We have internet. We have phone. We have, and on and on and on. Okay, that's what's coming out of that business account then. So the 7 goes into our personal account. Now, still not our dough yet. It's not our money. And this, you can see how we get in trouble. We just do. I'm not judging it. When Jody and I were in trouble, we needed the whole 10. I'd say, well, we can't. We got to give some to the tax account. She'd say, yeah, right. Too bad. We need the 10 to live. So I would lose that fight all the time. But we were wrong. It's not our money. So you're borrowing from the IRS, which is a bad thing. Anyway, so now we have state and federal tax, and then we have self-employment tax. So I'm giving you ballpark numbers to look at, okay? Which leaves us about $4,000 on 10 that goes into our wallet, which incidentally is remarkable, because how many businesses do you know of that have 40% margins?
Very few and far between.
Charlie, I don't think the beer industry had 40% margins, did it?
No, they're operating at about 20 to 25%.
Right.
The grocery store, the grocery business, those guys are operating around 8 to 9% on a good day, and they're losing money on a lot of products like milk and eggs.
It's very tight. It's very slim. Retail's very slim. All those are very slim. This is a really good margin, folks. If we take nothing from today and you just religiously separate your money and you start it right now, start right now. Okay. Questions, comments on separating the dough? We good? That slide back there is really problematic. If we just do this, we're going to solve a lot of our challenges, a lot of them. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so separate the money. Get real. Hire a great tax advisor. Now, I don't know if these are necessarily in specific order, but they're pretty darn close. If you don't have, if you send everything to H&R Block I'm not criticizing that at all. They do nice work. But H&R Block is not typically, unless they've changed a lot over the years, I don't think they're going to be texting you back on a weekend saying, hey, I thought about this for you guys, and I think you should be thinking about this. That's what a tax advisor does. Now, some of you are thinking, well, that's going to be a lot of money. It's not nearly as much as you think. It just is not nearly as much as you might think.
Well, Todd, I'll give you another example that'll
Yeah,
help.
love it.
Maybe people realize it. You know, last year, I think my tax bill at the end of the year ended up costing me like maybe $2,000, right? Which seems like a lot of money for taxes. And a lot of people are like, oh, I do my taxes on my own or this, that, and the other. He saved me $50,000.
I love, Charlie, that you brought that up. And I love that analogy because it's real. And by the way, when you look back in a year or two, you might find it's even more than 50. And certainly, you know, headaches and everything else. I implore you to, and incidentally, when you hire one of these people, you know, you don't write them a check today, typically. You just hire them. You say, look, I need you to be my tax advisor. And as your business grows, and some of you are at a spot where you should be talking to your advisor frequently. You know, it could be 10 to 12 times a year, easily for some of you. And others of you, it might be twice a year. Others of you, it might be once. But I'm talking about somebody who doesn't just prepare your taxes. We good there? Let's just keep going. This one's just absolutely critical, folks. And you'll hear me harp on it a lot. We got to pay our taxes on time. I did a survey a few years ago, probably like 5 years ago already. And I did it in August with about 1,000 agents. I think only about 100 responded. Almost 70 out of 100 had not paid any tax yet that year. And their third installment was 2 weeks away. Okay, well, if we were to go to our family or our significant or just ourselves and say, you know what? I want to pay more than my fair share this year for tax. I'm not paying enough. I want to pay more. That's what we're doing. And some of us, I think that it's just on paper. You know, it's just a paper. No, it's your checkbook. It's your money. And it's already expensive. I did some quick calculations on 60 grand gross for an agent, 60 grand gross after they've paid the company dollar to the office. So your 1099 income is 60, okay? Federally, I'm trying to read my scribbling here. Married filing jointly federally, you'd have a tax bill of about $3,800, okay, on the adjusted gross of that. And then you have another $6,000 for self-employment. So now you're at $9,800. And then you have another $1,400, $1,500 state tax due. So your total tax bill, folks, is 29%. And if we don't pay that, we pay penalty on it. So this is an individual that's got, after expense, they've got about 40 left over. They've got to write a check for $11,500 out of the 40. And we don't seem to, as an industry, we don't seem to care about that. So get them paid on time. Now, somebody said, well, what do I do right now? Okay. Well, you talk to your advisor and say, I got to get started. And let's pay something for fourth quarter because see, the taxes are due like in 5 days. Okay. For all of 21. Okay. This one's critical. Use one card. I don't care what kind of card, doesn't matter. You can go on Google and they'll tell you what kind of card is the cheapest to have. Some people like miles, some people, it doesn't matter to me. We get a card. If you have to use a debit card because it keeps you more restricted or accountable, then do that. And then every every business purchase goes on the card. So Charlie, I don't know if your mom had to go yet or Maureen, but if I've got $100, $150 bill at the market center this month, I can pay that with a credit card, can't I?
Yeah.
Pay it with your credit card, not Todd and Jody Butzer credit card. Todd Butzer LLC credit card. Just name it. It doesn't even have to, you can just say Todd Butzer on it or Sue Smith or whatever. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be formal, but that's the only card you use. Here's the beauty of that. When you're done with the month, you're going to get a statement from the credit card company, and it's going to tell you where everything went, where you spent your money. And then we can enter it and do it in a ledger, or we can put it in QuickBooks or whatever. Use one card. And folks, educational event goes on there. Internet fees, office dues, everything related to your business goes on that card. And then we pay it off every month. Now, if we're not paying it off every month, a quick side note, this is just the reality. If you have debt, not investment debt, I'm not talking about your home mortgage, but if you have debt, you're outspending what you earn. That's it. You're spending more than you make. So we got to stop that. We got to stop that. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Hire a bookkeeper. These are not expensive. Anybody on the call have a good bookkeeper that they're using right now? Want to share how much a chart costs them?
$33 an hour.
And these are not complicated businesses, folks, for a good bookkeeper. So they're not going to spend 40 hours a month on this.
No, Todd, I'll give you a good example. Megan and I,
Beautiful.
We hired a bookkeeper 2 years ago for our personal finances, a lot of business, different finance. We just have a lot of different things coming and going, right? Megan's real estate business. I used to spend like 3 or 4 hours a month looking at all this stuff. Then little shout out and little plug. We hired Kim Gossman. If you need Kim's info, just send me a note and I'll create an introduction. Kim now manages all our credit card statements, all our personal banking statements, all our business banking statements. And we spend about 30 minutes to an hour every month on it. And because we have it, it's so dialed in now because it's so routine, it ends up costing us like $80 a month for her to manage our books. And then guess what? When we go to our accountant in March-ish,
you're all done. Yep.
I'm all done and I'm not spending hours and hours and hours looking at my write-offs because we already have everything written up because we spent an hour a month for the 12 months that when in March comes that it's all done. But it's the best $100 a month that we spend.
I promise you, everybody on this call can find $100 because you do. You find it for pizza and beer. You find it for other stuff. And it won't cost you $100 because you're not maybe in multiple businesses like Charlie is. So you might have just your business. It might be 40 a month. I can't stress this one enough, folks. If you've already got a great one, great. I will tell you when you get to the level of what Charlie's doing, oftentimes, like for example, one of my business operations, and this will sound like one of those speaker things, but I promise you it isn't. I have never signed a check for the Gulf States region, ever. I don't even know where they are, and I don't know what they look like. I've never seen them. So the bookkeeper, and this is a good size operation, it's a profitable operation, charges $800 a month to process everything for the Gulf, including payroll for our staff and everything else. And all I get once a month is a full statement compared to our budget, which I'll show you in a little bit on how we work a budget. And that's all I get. Everything else is taken care of by her. So at some point in time, you might be able to just graduate to a level where they just do it all for you. They're cutting it. And I'm not talking about your deposit on a VRBO that you're going to take a vacation on, but even that maybe. So, okay, but get one and talk to Charlie when you're done with this call. And you can get started on this right now. You can get started on every one of these things right now today, if you want. Not saying you should, but well, yeah, you should. Set up a personal and business bill pay schedule. Money can absolutely sap your brain on time because you worry about it. Some of us. And when you just have a system down, you work the system. So you don't worry about paying bills today because that's not when you pay bills. Oh, somebody called and they want some money. Great. They're going to get money on the 15th or the 30th or whenever you pay bills. But you don't need to be, oh, I gotta run to the bank. Who has to run to the bank? Nobody has to run to the bank ever. I'm in Minong, Wisconsin. I don't think there's a bank here. So set up a schedule. And this came right from Jody. Jody's got a schedule. I think she does it twice a month. Everything's online, of course. All right, what else to do now? Build a budget for 2022. You can start this right now. Now, I know I've got enough time on this that I know when I say budget, people go, I'm not doing a budget. I'm not going to do one. I promise you, I plead with you, your life is going to improve tenfold by having a budget. Not restrictive, it will be freeing. You'll feel better. You'll have a better control of, well, let's look at it. Do you think Keller Williams Realty International operates on a budget? Well, then we should too.
I'll give you
ahead.
another example. Because this will
I love
resonate.
these, by the way. Keep jumping in, Charlie. I love them.
Okay, so I hear about it all the time from agents who don't take vacation or don't want to spend money on, I don't know, a new set of golf clubs or a boat or whatever. When you operate within a budget, and a part of your budget is how much you're socking away from an investment standpoint in terms of saving for the future, you can make great decisions and sleep easy at night with the money that you decide to spend discretionary. And so what I mean by that is, if you want to go buy the boat because you've taken care of everything else, you've worked hard enough to go buy the boat, or you can work hard to buy the golf clubs or whatever else, because you know you've taken care of what you need to in terms of setting aside the dollars you want to.
I couldn't agree more. And Charlie, next time you should do this because you're bringing up everything.
No,
I mean,
here's the
I'm not
truth.
kidding.
I've just heard this speech about 5 times, 6 times.
Yeah.
And every time I've heard it, I've taken something away. But I will tell you, Megan and I, we never disagree over finances, and we sleep easy at night every single night, knowing that if we want to take the kids to Florida for a week, we can totally do it because we've taken care of our other obligations.
Okay, so I want you to listen to that. Sleep easy at night and have a good relationship. When, like I said, I've been married 43 years. The biggest challenge we had as a young married couple wasn't being in love. It was money. And the money talk usually went, Charlie, something like this: where's the money? That was kind of the talk. And then I had this really terrible view, which was, I'll make more. Terrible view. And we'll talk about that coming up in just a second. So build a budget. I want to give you some solid tips on doing this. If we want to get together later, Charlie, and just do a whole section just on the budget, we could do it. I'd be happy to. But here's where I would just start with it. Now, people get confused that they think, well, it's all this intricate. Really, all you're building is an advanced look at your P&L, your profit and loss statement. That's all you're doing. You're pre-assigning the money, like Charlie brought up. That's all. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, how much money do I expect to bring in February? Okay, really, not what's my long-term big goal. No, I want to know what number you're going to hit. That's the number I'm looking for. Okay. And I'm going to show you how you go about building this. All right. So here's budget how-tos. It's not about your goals. And we see this all the time with market centers, offices in Keller. We see it all the time. We see people, well, I'm going to make, 200 grand this year, but they've always made 70. They've always made 70. But this year they're going to do 200. No, they're not going to do 200. They're going to do 70 again. So we're looking for real numbers here. So this isn't about your goals right now. What you do is you print last year's P&L, which you'll have access to, and you're going to have access to next year because you're going to do it this year, hopefully. Okay. And then print your multi-year trend report. One of the most beautiful pieces of information we have at KW for agents is a multi-year trend report. And I'm not aware of any other real estate company that offers these. None. And I'll show you one. This is a real agents multi-year trend report from this morning that I pulled up. Okay. And I just pulled one section of it. Now, if you're not looking at this on at least every month, I would, well, you don't need to do it more than monthly because it just populates once a month. I'd pull this up every single month. If you don't know where to get this, just drop a note to Charlie and the team, and they can tell you how to get it. Okay. It's very, very simple, but it's in your My KW back office. So let's look at this individual's GCI. Now, I can tell you, I know this individual, so their roles have changed in recent years, and they're focusing on different business entities. But you can see in 2021, they did gross commission income of 130,000. Okay. Now, let's say their budget for 2022 is 350. I'm going to have questions. Because then I'm going to look at the written units up above there at the top, and I'm going to look at written volume. Okay. And I'm going to say, does the written units and written volume for December start you off on a fast enough track for January and February that you're going to hit these numbers you're talking about? So this is all about being real here so that you can accurately predict. Now, I'll just tell you, and this will sound like I'm doing this, and I promise you I'm not. But I just looked at the net operating income for the Gulf States region for the last 3 years versus what I forecasted. In 2021, we did 106% of projected, meaning I was 6% above. Now, by the way, for North Central, which is partly owned by Gary Keller, he'd want to know why. He'd ask me, why are you 6% above? Not, hey, you're 6% above, well, awesome. He'd say, why are you? In other words, why weren't you closer, right? So I was at about what, 94% or so of what I projected. In last year with COVID, I was at 103%, meaning I was 3% higher than what I had projected for income. And the year before that, I was at 100. I was 19 grand off on a multi-million-dollar deal, 19 grand. So you can get and by the way, those income levels are not guaranteed each month. You build them by data. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at your multi-year trend from last year, and you're going to say, okay, how does my income track, and what am I realistically expecting now for January? And the reason the P&L comes in so handy is you then go look in your P&L and you see what your expenses typically run in January, and you build essentially a P&L for January, okay, based on what you think is going to happen. Now, here's what's cool. When February comes around and you've now closed out January, your Charlie's bookkeeper would then send a P&L for the Megan's business, okay? You say, okay, here's what we projected and here's what we did. What happened? Oh, here's what we were going to spend. Here's what we did spend. What happened? Or this, here's what we were going to spend and we only spent this. That might not necessarily be good. Maybe we're not investing back in our business. Maybe we're not really marketing heavily in an area where we should be, or whatever, okay? But a budget allows you to do this. And then it does what Charlie talked about. It allows you to make sure you're covering the areas you need to be covering for your business. You're going to adequately fund your business throughout the year. And I'm going to promise you, your review time is going to take you about 10 minutes once you get these P&Ls to match up to the budget. You'll just take a quick look. And you'll go, I projected this for my net operating income, and it came in at that. We're pretty close. We're running pretty close. Messy financials are expensive. Really clean financials are beautiful. Now, what do you think if a company has really messy financials and they try to sell? What do you think happens?
They don't get the
They
value,
make a lot less.
maximize their value.
They don't, because nobody wants it. It's so messy, you can't even track it. You can't figure out what they're really making. And it's costly to them. It's extremely costly. Okay. So let's keep going here. I don't know why it's not letting me advance out of it. Okay. And build a budget. All right. Review your financials monthly. This is not going to take you that much time. But just in general, just overall, what do you think happens? And again, I'm not looking for just a quick affirmation here, but really, what do you think happens if you spend a little more time on your money every month? Overall, what do you think happens?
What you track will ultimately improve.
I completely agree. So number one, your stress goes down. Your money goes up. It's the strangest. You're gonna, if you're one of those who love to give, you're gonna give more because you're gonna have more available to give. If your focus is on debt reduction, your debt reduction is gonna go faster because you're just spending more time with it. It's like anything else. If we just disregard it, it's predictable what's going to happen. If we just don't pay any, we turn our head to it. We see it all the time in our industry, folks. Somebody gets a little bit behind on their mortgage, starts to get called by the mortgage companies. They refuse the phone calls, refuse the letters, don't acknowledge anything, and they turn their head. It's not getting better. If I refuse to train my goofy 1.5-year-old lab, there's a predictable outcome to it, and it shows up, and it's not real pleasant, you know. And if he's well behaved, it's very pleasant. So it's like anything else. What you focus on expands. I really believe that. So review them. Okay. Charlie touched on this too. I just talked with I talked with a good friend of mine from South Florida, who's the regional director down there. And we were talking about a new podcast that I'm working on that it'll be free, but it'll be about money. And he was talking about how much it's needed. And then he said, I just, like that day or the day before, met with an agent who was in his mid-60s. And he said, I'm just going to have to keep working because I don't have any retirement or retirement assets. There are so many wonderful retirement plans for self-employed people. So you're going to reach out, first of all, to your advisor that you're going to hire, your tax advisor, and you're going to say, I need a good, solid investment strategist to help me. And I want to look into building my own SEP, solo 401, right? There's several plans. And I just took some notes the other day on what the SEPs are now allowing. A simplified employee pension plan for self-employed people, you can put up to 25% of your net earnings up to 61K, and they're not due until the final due date of your final extension. So you could pay them for 2021 as late as next October this October.
And
by the way,
and you know what that does, Todd, for your income? It reduces it by 61K. That's
what I was just going to say. So, and here's the thing on that. So let's say the tax liability on that 61K is, you know, rough ballpark. Let's take 30% of it, 18, 19, 20 grand. Okay. So we have some choices. We can give ourselves 61 deferred, right? No tax on it right now. Or we could put none of it away and pay the IRS 18 grand. It's a beautiful tool, folks. It just is. I promise you, it's a beautiful tool. All right. And now just in our last few minutes, this is where Jody and I disagreed. I was going to start with number 10 at the start of it. And she said, don't, because people are going to think it's all about the money. When I'm talking about money, I'm not talking about just, you know, material stuff. I'm talking about assets for your family. So in a lot of our cases, first of all, earning more without doing the rest of these things is not going to help, because all you're going to do is blow through a lot of money. And I could tell you story after story after story after story of agents that made boatloads of money in and blew through all of it. They didn't keep any. So it's not the number, and that's why Jody's comments were right on. Number 10 won't work unless we've got 1 through 9 figured out here. Now, let's say 1 through 9 are systematized. We're good. We operate with respect for capital. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go make more, because frankly, the market would allow you to. There are some individuals that think, you know, this number is the bomb. If I hit this number, then everything will be okay. Well, guess what? This number is going to be easier than you think. There was a guy Gary interviewed one year at Mega Camp, and he wasn't even with KW at the time. And he said, Gary, I remember when we first thought of doing 400 units a year, we thought that was just unbelievable. Now we do 400 a month. So my call to you, and you're saying, well, you just want us to make more money. Yeah, I want you to make more money. I want you to make more. Doesn't impact me. I want you to make more money. And see what it does for your family once these systems are in place. So think of your systems in real estate, and think about how methodical we are at running our real estate business, our operation, our lead generation. And is there more available to you? Because trust me, there is. If a mega agent, if Hergenrother takes Livian and expands into your market, they'll start making money right away. So the money's available. It's there. So if you're used to making 50, what does 250 look like? If you're used to making 250, what does 750 look like? And I'm not talking to go buy a new watch. I'm talking about what does it do for your family with assets? So really examine as you look at 2022, am I just kind of sporadic and chasing some stuff, including the money, or am I systematized and methodical? Keller has a great line, and we don't hear about it very often, but I love the line. And he has said it many, many times. He said, extreme success, Charlie, is just on the other side of extreme boredom. When you watch Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or any of these really, really good quarterbacks, you watch them throw a pass, you say, well, how beautiful that is and how great it is. But they do thousands and thousands and thousands of those a year. It's methodical. They go through drills and drills and drills and drills and drills. It's systematized. So Brady's eating regimen and workout regimen is well documented. I mean, it's systematized. It's the same all the time. So is our business the same all the time? So think about, as you put all these in place, what does your world do if our income goes up dramatically? And sometimes there's people around you believe more in what you can make than what you believe. A lot of what we deal with mentally is we have a governor, Charlie, I think, on our own income levels. We have a limiter, and we kind of, once we hit that, that's kind of what we hit, and we lose an opportunity. Now, by the way, I've had people say, well, I just don't need that much. Great, give it away. Give it to somebody. Give it to somebody who could use it. You know, give it to your in-laws, your kids, your spouses, your significants, your whatever. I don't know. But see what that does for you, because it's there and it's available. All right. Questions, comments. That's kind of my gig for today. We wanted to keep it at an hour or so.
So I'm going to make one comment around point number 10, Todd.
Yes.
It's important for some people to hear this. When you have if you do 1 through 9, right, and you have a very intimate relation with your finances, earning more does not necessarily mean you have to sell more homes or sell more units.
Mm-hmm.
Because what will happen is when you have an intimate relationship with your finances, you may find the ability to earn more income at remaining status quo because you tightened up the belt a little bit and understood.
Completely agree. I completely agree.
So,
I had a line in here, Charlie. I'm glad you brought it up. I don't know what happened to it, but I had a line about reducing expenses. And one thing you could do, this is, I thought, a great tip is you print out like a month worth of expenses, or print out your credit card statement or something, and just look at it and look like the smallest charges all the way up. And you start looking and say, well, which ones of those could be eliminated? I mean, simple things like, okay, so up where we are right now, I'm in remote area of Northwest Wisconsin. So for years, Jody and I had Dish, I think, or one of the network, satellite deals. And it was like $250 a month or something. Well, that's okay, except YouTube TV is $50 a month. And I don't have to have 900 stupid channels that I'm never going to watch. So I just do YouTube TV. Now, could I do the 250? I could, except I don't have to. So there's 2,500 net, which is $5,000 a year, right? That I get to save.
yeah.
And I can do something with it. So
Hey, Todd,
Charlie's right.
One other things, there was a question that came in from Bill Werner around healthcare plans and your budget process. With independent contractors and in the way that healthcare is today, how are you thinking about healthcare costs as it relates to budgeting for it?
Well, healthcare costs are kind of an interesting animal because they treat them pretty favorably with tax treatments. So it would be, you have, if you look at it and you say, okay, well, I've got operational expenses, and then I've got kind of a below the line expense, which would be like my healthcare costs. Okay. And those would come right off the top of your business operation prior to your adjusted net, if you will. So, and they get treated pretty favorably with tax treatments, So I would put it right in your budget and say, how much is my healthcare costs costing me as an independent? And I don't know what it's running you, but you would take your how it work on your P&L is like this. You take your gross revenues, you would take cost of sales, which would be like your company dollar you paid at the market center. It would be referral fees, things like that. Okay. Then you'd list expenses. You'd go through your expenses, and then you'd do adjustments to it before you get down to your your net operating income. And the adjustments would be other expense or other operations, contributions to your 401k, things like that, and healthcare. Okay. So I'd treat it right there. Does that answer it? Does that help?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
What else? Anybody else have questions for Todd or while we have him on here? Again, I've heard this 6, 7, 8 times, and every time I have it, there's an adjustment that I need to make that helps us in our financial review. Todd, thank you for, again, I always say, and I challenge our group, leadership is challenging the way in which people think. And that's what we appreciate about the conversation that you've had with us today, is challenging people in the way and they approach or their relationship with money. Because when you have this in order, here's what I do know, and Todd, you know this too, of having conversations with a lot of agents. When you feel what you can sleep easy at night or have great, very fulfilling relationships with significant others, when your affairs are in order, and that friction occurs in relationships when your affairs are not in order or the things are messy and things become, it puts stress in other parts of your life.
Well, Charlie, I'll share a real personal note on what you just said. And I literally just went through this. So my dad just passed away on December 22nd. He's 93 years old. I worked for him in real estate. Wonderful, wonderful guy. Really a devoted Mankato supporter, and if he shook your hand, that was the deal. You didn't need anything more than that. But I will tell you, near the end of Dad's life, and he was lucid, but near the end of his life, he was ruminating about his affairs and did he have them ready to go? And he had sold some real estate, and he was really troubled, Charlie, by the fact that they were they were not quite buttoned up the way he needed them to be. And we did some very last minute things and with an attorney and a trust and things like that. And he wasn't a wealthy man. And I remember going into Dad on his final day, and he was out. But I said, Dad, we're good. We got everything handled. But I'm telling you, it caused him great distress. Now people say, well, I got a long time. Yeah, we don't get. I should have. We could even get into that, Charlie, and all the stuff in your affairs. Who's going to get what you have, and the more all of that is tightened up, it just frees you to do really cool things, like come and hang out with you guys today. This is fun for me. I've done it from this facility before. Usually I drive over on a four-wheeler. I'm not kidding. I'm in the back roads of Wisconsin and I love it. It's great. And I'll go home and I get to go to the dump when I'm done, So, it's awesome, but get them in order and you'll feel better. You just feel better. I promise you. If you need something, send a note to Charlie or send it to me directly. And I'm at tbutzer@kw.com, TBUTZER@KW. If you need it, I don't have every answer, but I can usually turn you to somebody who does. And by the way, all of you on the call right now, you've got a remarkable market center. Remarkable. So.
Cool. Well, Todd, thank you for giving us of your time and talent. We sincerely appreciate it.
My pleasure. You should see the bill, Charlie. It's enormous. No, thank you guys. I really appreciate being with you today. Good luck and just take some steps.
Thanks,
an
Todd.
action.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you guys.